Hello, I'm Tracy Freeland with Thomson Reuters here at the Aspen Ideas Festival. With me is Dr. Zeke Emanuel, Chair of the Department of Bioethics at the National Institutes of Health. Did I get that right this
Yes.
time? Okay, thank you. One of the issues that you are talking about in these few days is the American diet and what's going on with the food that people in America are eating. Should we be really terrified? Is it really bad?
We do have a very serious problem, and the fact is that over the last 20 years we've seen a dramatic change in obesity and the obesity rates in this country. A third of adults being obese. We have upwards of beyond a third of children either overweight or obese, rigorously measured. And those things have changed dramatically in the last 20 to 30 years. And so you know right away, while there might be some genetic component in the sense of susceptibility, it's really not a genetic issue. Genetics doesn't change in 20 years. It's really about the environment in which we live.
So what's the problem? Are we eating too much food? Is the food we're eating worse, or are we doing less exercise? Have I covered all the possible bases?
First of all, I would say it's the problem is a mistaken way of thinking about it, because the problem gives us thinking that there's a
one answer.
Exactly,
that
one
would be
answer.
Great. Wouldn't that be nice?
And one magic bullet we can change and solve it. And what we know is that there is not one problem. It's multifactorial, and you've highlighted we're eating more. So we know portion size has increased. I like to say most of us grew up, certainly in my age, where 8 ounces was the typical beverage size. Now most of us go in, and 20 ounces is the typical beverage size, and the 8 ounces classified as the mini. That just gives you an indication, but you can look at everything from bagel size to many other portions grown substantially. So one thing that's important is to reduce portion size. Secondly,
and that relies on companies, right?
Relies on.
If companies sold smaller portions, would Americans be healthier?
We also have to serve smaller portions in the house and in lots of other venues. Again, it's multifactorial. There's not one bad guy here. It's all across. The second thing is we have changed how we've eaten. So we eat a lot more processed foods. We cook less, so we eat out more. A substantial portion of our calories come either by eating out or ordering food into the house.
And that makes us fatter? Eating out or takeaway? The working mother's salvation?
We do have a problem there. If you do it consistently, there's a nutrition problem there.
So has feminism made Americans fat?
Most eating out, I'll pass on that.
My
mother would probably kill me if I weighed in on that. It's very hard to get fresh fruits and vegetables that way, and to change your diet. So.
And then exercise?
And then exercise is another problem. You know, the walking to school has declined. The after-school activities have declined. We had a big scare in the 70s and 80s about sort of safety issues, and so we went to driving our kids to school instead of having them walk. And then some places are just physically structured, so walking or exercise is much harder to do. I was talking to a guy from Iowa. He says, you know, in Washington, the restaurant's 4 blocks from my hotel. We walk there. But in Iowa, no one would walk. You'd get in your car and you drive there, and that's a real problem. And we have to change that behavior for health reasons, for ecological and environmental reasons, and otherwise. So we need to. We have this: how much we eat, what we eat, how much we exercise. All of that is in the mix, and the solution is going to require addressing all of them. Which is why the First Lady, when she laid out her Let's Move agenda, had 4 main pillars. You gotta provide information, we have to increase physical activity, we have to change the kind of foods that are available to people and access to them, and change what people eat.
Now, you mentioned the First Lady's sort of really powerful advocacy around these issues. Some politicians, maybe most notably Sarah Palin, have been very critical of that, and they sort of see the nanny state imposing its will on the lives of ordinary, freedom-loving Americans.
Well, I don't want to get into the politics. I think that's really about politics. Even other politicians in Sarah Palin's party, like Mike Huckabee, have said, no, this is a collective problem, and what the First Lady is doing is right. She's not telling people what to eat. She's identifying a problem and identifying that we need multifactorial, many efforts to change the needle. And this is a problem for all of us. Look,
so you think it's legitimate for government to guide us in these spaces?
Well, even if you're skinny, right, you're paying for this problem because your health insurance bill is up, your public services are different because of it. There is a lot of impact on anyone, even if they're doing the right thing. That's the first thing. Second, the government does have a role to play in this in terms of school lunches. Government is heavily involved in that. In terms of how we present information to the public and how the government either presents some information, such as the dietary guidelines, the food icon, we've changed from the pyramid to the plate, in terms of how we help not just the federal government, state and local governments, how they structure cities, sidewalks, safety, our public parks available. So willy-nilly the government's involved, but that's very different than telling you what to put on your plate. We can provide you information, we can work with others. Most of the public, if you survey them, they would like assistance.
So this is not Big Brother?
And it's certainly not Big Brother. This, most of the public, I mean, if you listen to Leslie Dash this morning from Walmart, he says, our customers tell us they want help in providing what's healthy. And they need information, they need access to healthy items that they can purchase, and they need to know what's healthy. And that's not so easy out there.
So to what extent does solving this set of issues going to require taking on some corporate interests? And let's take the example of the soda companies, the Coke and Pepsi. You know, there was a time when the cigarette companies were honored, respected corporate citizens. Everybody smoked, that was okay. Are we going to get to the point where Coke and Pepsi are seen as purveyors of, you know, poisons to the world's children?
I don't have a crystal ball, but one of the things they will tell you is that their sugar-sweetened beverage sales are going down, and their sales of
not outside the United States. They're pushing it to people in poorer countries.
Well, but their sales of other items like water, fruit juices, etc., are what are increasing in this country. That's the first thing. The second thing is, I think both of those companies, look at them in particular, have recognized that health is going to be a major issue in the marketplace, and are trying to develop products in that space. Coke bought Honest Tea, Pepsi has Naked Juices, so they're recognizing that they need to develop and expand their product line that is healthier for people, and you know, that's an admirable thing. And I think
they still fought pretty fiercely against a soda tax.
They did.
And wouldn't that be better for the public health? Not to mention the public purse?
I'm not going to comment on it. It's a very controversial issue, and I think it's not a settled one way or the other on that.
You don't think that would be a good sort of behavioral nudge to make us choose? No? Okay. How about salt? That's going to be a subject here. Is that another thing we need to be concerned about?
Well, if you look at what the American public consumes, it's about between 3,000 and 3,500 milligrams per day, and the recommended, there's a little flexibility in the recommended amount, but it's certainly about half or less of that. Salt is very important on a population basis for high blood pressure, and high blood pressure is strongly predictive of things like stroke, heart disease. There are tens of thousands of lives per year at stake in lowering our salt consumption. Lots of dollars are spent also in the healthcare system related to salt. So everyone recognizes we have to do something. Salt, interestingly, is one of those things. We have a salt receptor on our tongue, so we're exquisitely sensitive to salt. We like salty things.
I love salt.
Yes,
it's delicious, right?
exactly.
And it makes things delicious.
One of the things we know also, though, is you can decrease salt by about 5% without you noticing it, but only if everyone does it. And so this is one where so-called...
Why is that? Like, you have to decrease your salt too?
No. I mean, if all the manufacturers...
All the foods
So
together.
if only some of the food manufacturers decrease salt, you're going to gravitate to the people who aren't. And so this is a case where a level
because
playing
it will
field...
taste better.
Yeah. Or you've already been trained to like it. Look, I grew up in a house, my father is a kidney doctor for children, and we grew up in a house with literally no salt. Salt was never added to the food. We never were allowed to use it. We didn't have a salt shaker in the house. And so any small amount of salt sends me wild. I actually do not find it appealing at all. I find much restaurant food oversalted for me. So one of the important things is that we get entrained early as to how much salt we like, and we need to get that down. And that's very important. But you can't get it down one product at a time. This is a case where you
collective action problem?
Exactly. It's a collective action problem, and we really do need to have everyone go down 5%. And some companies have tried to decrease.
Sounds like we need big bad government to help solve that collective action
You
problem.
are not going to get me to say big bad government, first of all. I don't think the government is bad.
That was sarcastically intended, right?
I just need to be clear, too. But I do think that this is a case of where either it's going to be voluntary and everyone's going to stick to it, or we are going to have the main mechanism of collection action here is for everyone to work together. I will say that there's also some interesting technologies being developed out there where less salt will taste better. So one thing is you have the objective amount of salt in a dish, but there's salt taste is a subjective experience, and that can be adjusted by different things. How big are the crystals? How are they cut? What else are you eating with it? Are you eating other salt items which might be salty, or is it against a background of sort of very plain stuff, in which case the salt will be accentuated. So there is some interesting technology that different companies are looking at to make foods taste saltier, even with less salt in them. So all of this is promising, but I think it's another area where we really need to move together and move pretty expeditiously. This is a case where, in fact, if we do a good public health intervention, it's actually cost saving. We'll make more money for every dollar we spend on it.
So, Dr. Manuel, I know that you are a devoted father. I have 3 kids myself because of all the profiles of you. At least you are reported to be a devoted father. How's that? Are you indeed a devoted father?
I like to believe so. Okay. You'd have to ask my kids whether I am or not.
You believe yourself to be a devoted father,
Correct.
and reports have it that you are a devoted father. Can we agree
right.
that?
Okay.
I have 3 kids.
Yeah.
I like to think I'm a devoted mother too.
Yeah.
What's the one piece of advice that parents like us should apply to get the health of our children?
Good nutrition. So
and the whole nutrition exercise thing. What's the one thing that I should really focus
again,
on?
you keep going back to the one magic bullet.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a one magic bullet.
Okay, give me 3, but if it's 10, it's too hard.
Yeah,
okay.
I agree with you. So one of the things that's recently happened is the U.S. government released its new food plate, the new food icon.
The famous food plate.
I actually think. In full disclosure, no conflicts of interest, I worked on that and worked on with the USDA.
Done. It's very attractive.
And I actually think we did, it's probably not a perfect job, but we did a pretty good job.
You're proud of the plate?
So I am very proud of the plate. And so if you look at the plate, let me highlight a few things that I think you want to figure out what to do. First, the plate, smaller plates. Okay, you want to go out and get smaller plates rather than the ginormous 15-inch plates or whatever.
What size? How many inches should
I don't know the inches,
be?
but just smaller plates. We know that smaller plates, smaller portion size. Second thing, fill half the plate with fruits and vegetables and make it a good game with your kids about half the plates with fruits and vegetables. It'll find out it's a bit of a challenge, and you have to work at it. One of the things in my family that we tended to do is every meal had a salad, and dessert tended to be fruit. So that is a good way of doing it.
Do you force the kids to eat the vegetables? What if they fill the plate, but they don't eat the
Dr.
vegetables?
Emanuel, never force the kids to eat anything. The alternative is you don't like what's on. We put healthy stuff on your plate. You don't like it. There's yogurt in the refrigerator. End of discussion. So.
Okay.
And yogurt we also know is low fat. Is very
natural
good.
Flavored, no flavored yogurt.
Plain
You're
or
a
vanilla.
softie on that?
No,
Vanilla
plain or
is
vanilla,
allowed?
or put fruit in it. But that was the alternative. And then you've got on the plate whole grains. You follow that, a relatively small portion. Limit the amount of processed foods. Limit the amount of food that you fast food or restaurant food. Not zero. No one's saying and going out. And I think so that's part of the equation.
Do you limit
and then,
seconds? What if the kids want seconds?
The kids are burning up a lot of activity and energy. I mean, I actually am a big believer that kids are pretty good at regulating themselves, which is why I said, you don't like what's here, go eat yogurt until your house can. Then the other thing is physical activity, encouraging them. Again, it doesn't have to be they got to go out and run 5 miles every weekend. We used to do my daughters and I used to do taekwondo together. But even brisk walking around, riding your bicycle, those are that's important to do. It doesn't have to be this maniacal run fast and hard. But we like to encourage walking as well as playing sports. Not every kid is into organized sports, so.
Okay, I think even I can at least try to follow that. Thank you very much, Dr.
Thank you.
Emanuel.
It's been
pleasure to talk to you.
Been a pleasure.
That was Dr. Zeke Emanuel at the Aspen Ideas Festival. I'm Faye Freeland. This is Reuters.